All right, sorry.
Okay,
Right.
so let's get underway here. This is the Tuesday, December 19th, West Newbury Planning Board meeting. I have 7:02 p.m. and all board members are here. So I don't think we need to identify ourselves. And I see Sam Joslin has joined us.
Okay.
Sue, do you think we should deal with the SAM definitions first, rather than, unless he wants to sit there and listen to the
I'm quite certain he would
MBTA.
be thankful to be pushed up to the top of the.
He
I just
probably
left
would.
a meeting to come to this meeting.
Well,
And then I have to go
well,
back to that meeting.
All right, let's do
okay.
it then. Yeah.
Okay, so let's we'll take that out of order and we'll go to I believe the zoning definitions, correct, Sue?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Let me find this.
I think we're almost there, Sam. We've been chunking away at this.
Yeah, sorry about the last two meetings. Just the first one was called up for a fire and actually fell asleep on my couch because I was up at 2 a.m. and then the next one I blew it. So
No. We did okay. And a couple of
I think you were more productive without me.
In some way,
Well,
I think we saved you some time that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Can you see this? And is it large enough?
Yes. Yes.
yeah, that's fine. So Sue, why don't you just kind of take us through what we need to still talk to Sam about?
Okay. I think a lot of them we.
And if anybody else has a question.
By the way, Sam, there were a couple of these definitions which I thought were terrible. And it turns out you're right. It is straight out word for word from the building code.
They are horrible, but yes, that's
Basement, for example.
Basement is one of Ray's favorites.
It is. It always will be now.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah.
Came into play a lot was on Plum Island, because depending on how far the foundation stuck out of the sand, when you tore down the house, you may gain an extra story if your basement was a story above grade versus a basement. So, yeah.
There's always some reason that they are the way they are.
That would have been significant out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, to go, add and have 3 stories instead of 2, which is what you're limited to.
Can I just ask a question as we're scrolling through? So Sam, what's your advice when something is being eliminated, which is what the crossed out red indicates, right?
Yes.
We then obviously don't continue to have these notes about amendments and stuff. It all goes away. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah. I'd have to check with the town clerk, but I don't see why it would continue to stay there.
It wouldn't be referring to anything anymore. So
correct.
Okay. I mean,
We
it is
had a lot of discussion about child care centers, or wait, what's the family care?
Yes. Oh, child care centers. Yeah. So Sam, where do things like the Children's Castle or the one at the church or the one at the old town hall, are they child care centers?
Maybe. So, and this is where the problem ends up, is one, a lot of the terms aren't found anywhere in our definitions, and at a later date, we do need to add those into our use table. It's not particularly important because under 48.3, the state zoning, they're allowed as of right anyway.
Even if they're not, even if they're private preschools?
Mhm.
Okay.
Education,
okay,
daycare, all are exempt.
So that's
So
all. Okay.
that's at the state level. They're allowed by right in any zone?
Under 48.3, yes.
Just
So if I
like-
want to open a daycare in my house, I can open it as of right. And you cannot
is
stop
there-
me.
No
We can
kidding.
regulate it, but we can't stop it.
Okay, and I don't mean to get all sidetracked here, Brian, forgive me, but is there a
No.
limit to the number of kids that would be in such a daycare?
Yes, and that's why I wanted to get rid of our terms and bring in the correct terms from the state definitions.
Good.
Because depending on age, hours of care, number of children, all change what they are.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So a daycare is not a daycare is not a daycare. There is definitive defining terms for when a daycare is educational, when it's institutional, you know, and then it also comes into who's running these establishments. If there's some exemptions, if the state is running it versus a private owner versus a public utility, public entity.
Generally speaking, are they all by right, regardless of flavor, or are some by right and some are not?
Most are by right.
Gotcha.
And there's, like everything, there's always exceptions.
So at Bridge Street and Main Street, what used to be an insurance business, I guess, it now looks like a daycare to me, although I didn't really check it out. That's why that
Yes.
it could pop up because
Yep.
it's just gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting.
So where,
It is, you know, but
So-
we can, sorry, Bian, go ahead.
so under which, are there now definitions included that are correct and useful? And if so,
I
which
have-
ones are they?
For this kind of just cleaning, I took them out because we don't use them in the bylaw. They're, whether we use them or not, they're allowed under state zoning and under the state building code as far as requirements.
Mhm.
And they're still subject to something like site plan review. So if I wanted to do a 100-child daycare, they would still have to come in for a site plan review, but we couldn't disallow the use.
And then, okay,
So if I wanted to open this 100-child center and I looked in our bylaw, I would find, what would I
You-
find?
You would find nothing just as you find nothing now.
And would I find it in the use permit, you know, the permitted use stuff that I need the site plan review? Where would I learn that?
So site plan review has triggers and, you know, something like adding parking, adding square footage of the building, whatever those criteria are would still apply to an educational or institutional use protected under 48.3.
Now-
So I understand now having grandchildren in daycare, there are all kinds of state rules about staff to student ratios and all kinds of stuff that they have to do. So this theoretical place, this new place that Ray's referring to whom do they apply or answer or whatever? To the state?
Nope, same process. It would be through the town. So when they would say, you came in and applied to me and said, I'm gonna put 100-kid daycare on my property. I want to build a secondary structure in addition to the primary use or attach it to my single family home. I would then send you through the site plan review process. I couldn't say no based on zoning
Mhm.
because the state says yes.
now,
And I would have gone to some state entity though to make sure that my staffing was correct and that I had the right number.
That's all part of your licensing and we really have little
Licensing,
to do
okay.
with that. Yeah.
So it's licensing. Okay, thank you.
now
Sure.
offhand, it's sort of my gut feeling, not for this revision, but in a future revision, it strikes me that it might be good to just put it in the uses permitted without a special permit. Do you think that I mean, it would be redundant because the state allows it. It would just be, I think, a heads up and maybe stop a potential problem where neighbors say, it's not in our bylaw and you can't do it or that kind of stuff. I don't know. What's your gut?
And for a later date is when we do the use table to have it in there. And then at that point, if we want to put a definition of what it is, we can put it in the definitions that, you know, again, based on what type of daycare it is. And define that based on the criteria that the state puts in for these daycares, and not that we could not allow them, but there would be an understanding of potential process. So if I'm opening a daycare in my basement and I have 5 kids, there's nothing needed from zoning, there's nothing needed for site plan review, there's nothing needed from the building department unless they're making alterations. They can just go get licensed and open a daycare tomorrow.
Gotcha.
They start getting into 6 kids to 10 kids, we end up in a different classification. If the kids are under 2 years, 9 months, you end up in a different classification. If they're there for more than a 24-hour period, again, different classification. So there's all these tiers of daycare. So to
Right.
just say daycare,
Yeah, we
It's-
could just take those definitions straight out of the state or refer to the state regulation there. When that day comes, if it comes, to add it specifically in our bylaws.
Yes, and that's my plan when we do that use table, to have it as daycare parentheses and then the classification, daycare parentheses classification.
Gotcha.
That way it's consistent with the state definitions for daycares as well as the building code definitions that regulates what needs to be done from a permitting process.
Perfect.
So
Thank you.
it again brings up a little consistent. It's daycares. Actually, I just did we took a poll for the district, and that was one of the classes that the guys wanted because it's so confusing, and it's the same. Anything with the lodging and boarding houses, daycares, it's horrible the way the states listed them out, and it just some we just can't do anything about.
Is there any sort of parallel thing for adult daycare?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and again, depending on the requirements and the classifications of what it is, we may have some say, maybe not. Like in town here, we have a couple transitional living establishments that we can't classify as anything but a single family home, despite the fact that one of them, we get daily calls for the fire department to come over because they're severely disabled.
Oh, wow.
But
They
it's a privacy thing, right? That the state won't let you do that.
well, that, and one of them is run by the state agency, and if they have particular on-hand staff there, even the sprinklering of the building gets pulled out of the requirements in the building code, which is, I find crazy that because they have a staff person on hand but that's a whole other argument. But then we have a couple others in town where you'd never know they were there. We have one for autistic women that are looking to get services to get back into living on their own. So they're transitioning back, and you'd never know they were there. So there's a lot of that, but again, it goes down to privacy and what's actually there, and then the number that you have. And then is it just a residence or is it an institutional setting? Some of them fall under educational, which then again gets those Dover Amendment protections under 48.3. It's not a linear path on these at all. It's brutal. But anyway, so in the meantime, I just wanted to delete them so there was no confusion in our zoning as to what it is versus state versus building code, because there's just no need for it. Stuff like kindergarten, it doesn't show up anywhere else in the code. Doesn't really matter if it's there or not. Kindergarten's an educational use that would be allowed.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
May I ask, Sam, where does the table of uses appear? That's not part of the zoning code?
We are one of the few communities that do not have a table of uses. We've got a narrative that is really sloppy and all over the place. That is the next thing on the list of what we'd like to do. If I have time, I'd love to get it on for spring, just in the format that it is now, not adding or subtracting any uses, just tableize what the narrative says, which is going to be really ugly. But I think that's what people need to see, is that here's our deficient zoning, here's the table. Then we can bring it back and go, okay, now we want to add in these things that the town really does want to have or should consider, or we're legally obligated to have some sort of mention in there of. So yeah, so this run with the definitions is kind of cleanup. Step 2 is get that table in place without any changes. And then the real tough part comes with the trying to figure out what people actually want in town. So that's up to you guys. I fill in the table blanks.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. All right, Sue, where were we here?
Well, I just did want to point out, here's one that we had a question of. We wanted to ask if hazardous materials, if you think this one is up to date, Sam. We're wondering if maybe it was out of date. You can maybe just tag that and check it. You don't have to have an answer now, but
think I looked at anything that referred to an act or some sort of standard,
Mhm.
but I'd have to double check honestly on this
Okay.
one.
If you would.
Oh,
Thanks.
side note, just I was thinking, because the meeting I was in before this was our housing production plan meeting. And we were used as a good example of people who adopted detached accessory unit
Oh, yeah.
bylaw. So
Hey,
yay for
Look at
West
that.
Newbury.
Take a bow, yes.
we're leaders, damn it.
You
That's right.
are.
Sure.
Are,
We're getting citations. Yay.
right.
The good kind, not the bad kind.
Yes.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay, moving along. To kindergarten gone, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think all of these, you all agreed.
Yes.
A mobile home, we also wondered if that was the date changes in those.
Is it up to date in what way?
Is it an up-to-date definition?
I think it works. You know, it calls out what it is. And, you know, one of the things, the only thing that concerned me with it when it talked about vehicle or modular construction, modular is definitely different than mobile.
Yeah,
Right.
we noticed that.
Conversation we had.
Yeah, I don't
And the other
particularly
thing-
like modular in there, but
The
I
other
think
thing
most people understand what a mobile home is versus a modular. It is, but I don't know. That was the only point of clarification that I had thought about when looking at that one.
Okay.
So Sam, so I've seen a couple of tiny homes. And you know, some could be, now they could be added to a lot as an accessory dwelling unit. They're pretty self-contained. And some tiny homes actually do have wheels. Would they then be considered a mobile home, even though it's not a conventional looking mobile home?
Funny that you bring that up, because in the 10th edition building code, tiny homes are adopted as an appendix. And there's also a bill in front of, I forget where it's at now, to allow for tiny homes that are wheeled as of right if they're under 400 square feet, which is really tiny.
Yes,
Uh,
it is.
So I don't know where that's going, but it does have some legs. One of the I guess defining factors with it being a tiny home versus it being a vehicle is the length of time on the lot and its ability to be hooked up to permanent utilities. But I don't think that really addresses our mobile home. But it's something we're definitely going to have to consider depending on where that bill
Yeah,
goes.
we'll see where that winds up with the legislature. And
Another topic for the future.
Yeah. I mean, the tiny homes are great if they're just a built tiny home, but
I've seen, yeah, some of them are really cute, and you know, for a single person right out of college, could be just the ticket.
Yep.
Sam, you had this one, and it looks like it's red, so it looks like it's been added, but is it meant to be crossed out?
yes. Thank you.
Yeah, if it weren't, we'd have to define what a section means.
Oh, that could go on and on.
I think
So if we
that's
cross
it. I
out
think
swimming
that was-
pools, that means no more swimming pools in town, right?
Yep, they're
Yeah,
outlawed.
no.
Absolutely
Not
outlawed.
Not with
Now-
that, get a labor and recognition.
I maybe we went by it, but what we all kind of wanted the area about the lot and the diagram in the appendix.
Oh, frontage or
Yes. Yeah, Sue had brought that up. I'm not opposed to keeping the drawings. I think we should clean them
thank
up
you.
so they look
Okay.
like they weren't done in crayon.
Come on. Oh, Sam.
If any of you drew it, my apologies, but
no, they're probably just from the pre-CAD era.
yeah. I mean, they're not bad. I think the language does describe it well enough that any most anyone that's familiar with building zoning would get it, but if you feel the drawings help, I'm not opposed to them other than having nice, newer, pretty drawings, and I'm not volunteering for that.
No.
Would be nice to have.
We'll look into that. That's good. Thank you, though. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay. Good.
Good. Yeah, I think
Um,
answered all the questions.
yeah, I think, yeah, you can see we
Out
went
there.
through this and only had a couple of questions for you. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it was
we're in
pretty
good shape there.
straightforward. Wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, other than, there's certainly more to do, more to add. But
Yes.
as far as just a cleanup, I think it's a good first step in getting it so that we've filtered out the junk, added a couple things needed, got the language a little more consistent, and puts us in a good spot to move forward.
Okay, sounds like a good plan. Anybody else have other questions on this?
Just, does this have to go to town meeting now to be approved?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the only question that's out there still is, do we need to do anything with kennel to make it, to make sure that everyone is thinking it means the same thing in terms of the, not just the definition, because the definition talks about it being a.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to wait for the town to move on something with their regulations before we tried to do any changes here.
my thought on this is that we need to kind of split out the difference between a building or structure as defined here as a kennel, and then a business.
The license to operate a kennel, whether it's a business or private.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the distinguishing piece is it your private, pets, or is it a business? And I mean, some of that comes down to me doing enforcement through town clerk sending me up the business certificates, because I do have my sign off added to all business certificates. So from a zoning standpoint, I get to see them before they issue a business license. So if someone's coming in for a commercial kennel license, I will get that business certificate in my office to approve or deny.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying here is that in the bylaw itself, when we get under permitted uses, there we need a different term to distinguish between the actual physical structure and the running of a business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I agree. But meantime, we've got a little bit of a stopgap.
Yeah, let's not, I don't think we should be looking to change that bylaw at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm fine with putting that in the future.
Yeah, I really think we see what the town does, and then, between Sam and the animal officer, we can get the language correct on both fronts.
There you go.
And maybe for the fall, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, we tested our bylaw and it wasn't clear. So in the future, there will be another instance where it'll be useful to get that cleared up.
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Can we turn Sam loose?
Awesome.
He'll be
I
happy.
can go back to my housing production meeting.
There you go.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
see
you,
you guys.
Sam.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Take
Sam.
care.
I
Okay.
wonder if
well, that-
Sam's Tuesday nights are always this much fun.
I bet you he likes us better than the
Man.
other group.
The man who loves his job. It's easy to tell.
Okay.
Well, I'm
All right.
glad.
So now we're going to get back to the first item on our agenda, which we had not started yet. The Housing Opportunities Initiative, the revised regulations, the district decision, and a schedule. So, Sue, we all, I think, received the suggested comments, and there's a number of them in there. I think we just have to scroll through the whole thing.
All right, I'll pull that up.
Maybe while we're waiting for that, Sue can confirm, but the idea is that would want to probably have a final discussion at the January 2nd meeting and submit immediately thereafter to the state.
Yes, if we have any prayer of them fulfilling their 90-day obligation in time.
Yes, yes.
Although, so the, I think the controlling factor will be Dodson and Flinker. They have to provide the technical, the information from from the compliance model. So hopefully they'll have that. And I know, and maybe it's part of the reason why Wendy is here, that we want to make sure the select board is, you know, on board with us as well. So
Correct.
they're anxious to see what our decision is, or the board's
Right.
decision, or districts and all that.
So why don't you scroll us and
All right.
we'll stop and chat where we see
Perfect.
the markups. Is this a marked up one? Yes.
It is. Yeah, it's down a
Yes.
little bit. The first
Yeah.
part, the purpose and all of that, and the definitions, there wasn't really much in there.
And we've seen all that. Nothing really has changed from what we've
That's
seen
correct.
before.
That's correct. This is the redlined version. So here,
Not seeing the redlining.
yeah, this one is just a comment. This was not a red line yet. So I had asked him questions about, does it require a special permit because restaurants are allowed uses? And he said, it doesn't. He was just explaining to me, because maybe you all didn't think that that was unclear, but I did. So there's no change recommended. He's just kind of explaining why he put that piece in there. So here is the this is what he did with the table. Let me just see if oh, you know what? I don't have the red line one up. Let me stop.
I think the red line is actually useful for review from my
Yep.
perspective.
You know, I haven't. I just didn't pull it up. My apologies.
Yeah, I know that's what I looked at when I was reading it myself. But I can't remember what we said last time necessarily.
Let me find it. All right.
It's certainly in our packet. That's the easiest place to find it.
Brian, when the select board was reviewing this last night, a couple questions came up. Are you okay with me just chiming in, or would you wait?
Absolutely.
Prefer I
No,
wait?
go
Okay,
right ahead. Sure.
okay.
All right.
Were you thinking of chiming up now or in the sections that came up?
Just as they came up, or I didn't know if
Okay,
you would
that's
prefer
fine,
I wait
sure.
till the end. Okay.
All right. I think I have the red line version.
Like
Let me- get back to it. There it is.
There we go.
So he did add definitions of the building types. And I don't know if you want to stop and read through these, or if you've already read through them on your own.
I
I mean,
read
I'm
that.
presuming that he obviously feels we should have that to describe
Yes,
whether the state will feel that that's overkill or not. I guess we'll find out.
right.
That's how I looked at it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm eager to get it submitted and see what they say.
Yes. Okay. So again, these were definitions. Not too many changes other than the addition of the types of units allowed.
So there, I did have a question. Sorry. Back on the wetland part, it's
The
let's
number-
see, under excluded
know.
land.
Do you know what number it is?
It is, let's see, excluded land under the definition of excluded
okay.
land.
Thank you.
No, it's going to be back
Way up under E.
under the letter E.
Oh, I was looking for the X. C, D, E.
You could try that, but
Yeah.
it'd be a long search.
Okay, what's your question?
Okay, a little more scroll on the three there. Yeah, so it refers to the buffer zone.
Mhm.
So for wetlands, it's 100 feet, but this looks like it means the buffer zone around for Title V setback. So I just was not clear on which one it refers to.
All wetland resource areas together with a buffer zone around wetlands and water bodies, equivalent to the minimum setback required by Title V of the State Environmental Code. Well, since I can't ask your question, let me just put it in here. Do this, or I might just have to write down. So your question is, so isn't Title V the
That's for the septic, so that would
Right.
be, 50 feet, I think is our local, but the wetlands, it's 100-foot buffer zone.
And in a riparian zone, it can be 200. Can't it?
Yeah. A riverfront, yeah.
Right. Mhm.
So maybe just if that could be clarified.
Seems as if he needs to refer both to the Wetlands Protection Act as well as Title V, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think that-
separately,
yeah.
yeah.
I think the way it's written, it's supposed to be including Title V. I think it's just not written that clearly
No,
because it says together with,
Yeah, that's what I think that he means too, but let's
Mm.
clarify it. So it's number
Okay.
excluded land.
and then
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, and then the next one on protected open space. The last sentence about functional or traditional use. So if this was a town property that had trails that did not have a CR on it, would that also be protected, or is this strictly just like Dunn property is municipal use but has trails on it?
No, that could be, so a protected open space that is legally protected and is also
well, there are two types.
Chapter 87 or 97.
Yeah,
Land.
so the Dunn property is not, it's just municipal use, but it does have trails on it.
All
So,
right,
but I would argue that's a functional or traditional use right now, so I don't know if that would fly or not.
Okay. The Dunn Fields, you mean?
Yes.
Well, and part of the Dun is in the woods, and there are a lot of trails in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'll find out on that one as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but even without the trails, people walk through these open fields all the time, whether or not
Yeah.
it's restricted by trees.
Yeah. Or wet spots.
Is it worth adding additional, for examples?
Well-
Cemetery, say something about,
Well, when this is talking
Yeah.
about excluded land, all publicly owned land is already there.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
okay.
this would already, that's
So
why,
it's already excluded.
yeah, it's already excluded.
Huh, okay, interesting.
And it's excluded for the very reason that we're recommended we didn't look at the
Mullen,
Mullen property because you have complete control of it. So
Right.
even though you say you could zone it, then you don't have to do anything with it if you didn't want to. So that's why they exclude publicly owned land.
got it.
So what if there was an easement on private property? How would that, a trail easement on private property, would that be excluded or no?
That's the legally protected in perpetuity.
Right. Yes.
The easement would be, okay.
An easement
Isn't
is
that-
a recorded legal document,
Right.
right?
I think
Yeah.
they're 50 years though, right?
Oh,
No,
So what
they're perpetual easements too.
Yeah.
So what this is, the reason this is in there, they're talking about in the regulations, they say that these are excluded lands cannot be part of the district. So
Right.
that's the use.
Yeah.
Are we good through the rest of the definitions, Wendy?
Yeah, that I just had a couple later on, but
Yep. Yeah,
Yep.
that's fair.
thanks.
All right, so where did our question start?
I think with the setbacks.
Yeah,
Oh,
Uh,
no, this
again,
was,
well, this was the one that I had the question on.
Mhm.
So here's how he addressed the setback. So instead of making, so he made a criteria and put the standards for all developments. And then he broke it out below that and said, and then these are the standards for developments with one building per lot, which we don't anticipate, but it could happen. And these are the standards for developments with multiple buildings on a lot.
Okay, can you scroll up to the top of the table, please?
It sure can.
So okay, this is, it's an awkward page
Right, the page
right
break is
here.
not.
Okay. Lot size for new lots. I don't,
So there's no minimum. So if you have a lot, there's nothing, it is whatever they want it to be. So if they want to put a lot around, 2,000 square foot house and just have 20 feet around it, they could do that. It's not.
I'm really confused.
There's no minimum lot size within the larger development parcel.
right, right, but it's not clear that,
So then
That-
I would
that's-
use that language right there. You know,
Okay.
lot size, you might even say sublots or something, but
Right.
lot size for new lots within the
Development.
250,000 square foot MCMOD development or something like that.
or within the MICMOD, or however they want to say it.
Exactly. There's got to be, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I was kind of guessing that's what it was, but.
Right.
Awkward page. Oh, see there.
Oh,
see?
there it is. Lot
Lot
size for
size
new
for new
lots
lots
created under the MIC.
under.
Does that do it?
Super awkward page break.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, okay. I'm not gonna make a big deal about it. I'm still not happy, but it's fine.
Stories 3, height, open space. So then he took these down because those were really only meant for standards for development with one building per lot. So you'll see those below. Minimum density. So here's the standards for developments with one building per lot. If someone were to go in and say, yeah, I know I can do it this way, but I want, 20 lots. And
Again, I think this would work better if we had two different words. One would be for the overall big lot, and then these would be individual building lots. You know what I'm saying?
maybe a district, maybe the lot is district.
Can we
Yeah,
call it
something like
a
that.
sub lot with a hyphen in between those two words? Or is
Yeah,
that
something
too
like that.
awkward?
I mean,
Okay.
if you refer, I kind of like Sue's idea that, this whole thing is the district but well, either
Okay.
way, but
I'll put that forth.
maybe they have a way they think would work.
And then there's the standards for development with multiple buildings on the single
Well,
lot
in the district, maybe multiple
Right.
buildings on a
in the
lot.
district.
In the district, yeah.
Except then it refers to each lot must have. And so I'm still confused. I thought this was where we had one lot.
Yeah, it should say the lot.
Shouldn't it say the lot? Yeah.
I think so.
Because aren't there also, there's the district, but then it has two classes of citizens in it, if you will.
Two
The
separate,
one
yeah,
where the housing is going to be and the other part.
yes, there's a possibility or the potential for the sub-district, yep.
So those are called sub-districts. We need to get the nomenclature consistent somehow. Oh, and here's another thing I don't understand. At the very top, it says there's a 30-foot buffer around the district, right?
Mhm.
So I'm Ms. Developer, and I've got this lot that I'm going to use. The first thing I do is I draw a 30-foot no-go all around it, right?
Mhm.
Then do these other dimensions refer, unless they obviously don't, like between buildings, do they refer to a setback to that district line? So does 20 feet become 50 because you add it to the 30-foot buffer?
These talk about distances between buildings.
Between buildings, but isn't there, maybe I'm talking about setbacks, which is coming up later.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah, I get your concern there, and
That one. No,
Okay.
sides, but it's setbacks, I think. Yeah. What is that too? The setbacks.
and I don't know that we have the time to do it, but I can see where some sketches, some drawings here would help.
Okay.
If we accept this language, I mean, we could have the drawings as supplemental material.
Yeah. Yeah.
As the clarification, but you can see having Ann's example, have the big lot and then show that setback, and then have some examples where we're showing how the 20-foot laps into, it's not to this 30-foot or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if they have illustrative examples as they do for all those garage related things, I think this is
Oh, I'm sure they're
actually less comprehensible than the
Yeah.
garage from the text. So this should have drawings too, I think, at some point.
I know we're on a tight time schedule here, so I'm not saying we need to have it now,
No,
but
but
I think eventually, whether it's included in the actual text or whether it's a supplemental sheet that you have in the planning board office.
I think it could easily go in here.
save a lot of it.
We'll see if they can put something in. Because we can't add something to this once they send it back to us.
Well, I
And
think
then
you can add things
Clarification.
like that. I think you can't change because remember, this is not
to the bylaw, I think you can have, somebody just said supplemental in the office, but
Oh, you mean after bylaws change, once the bylaws accepted?
is
I
reviewed,
thought
yes.
Once
Yeah,
this-
that's what I was saying. I hesitate to try to shoehorn something into this text and become part of the actual bylaw, but a sheet that we could have, maybe even at the meeting, to show people how this works graphically, I think might be helpful, especially when we're dealing with the big lot and the little lots within the big lot, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's more reasonable, yes.
Jump in if you see anything this is part of our regular zoning, but he took it out because the done property doesn't meet the requirement because they intentionally narrowed it at the driveway.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be in there.
No, I don't think it's relevant to this.
I think it's unnecessarily restrictive, and each one of these things is going to go through review anyway.
Yep. That's all
This
gone.
was-
Now, what's
Well,
what's
he
this
moved it up
one?
earlier.
No,
It moved up.
Oh, we took it out, yeah.
It was up further. You already
Yeah,
had
but it was in that other tabular stuff. or
That's
near
right, yes, okay.
tabular. This is an interesting one, though. This is always our bugaboo anyway.
right.
Find it to be awkward language. Have and.
Yeah, he tried to explain that to me. I don't know if you can see his explanation.
Well, he just lifted it because we have it currently, but do we
Right.
need it? Do we need it or not?
Right. He said he could cut it. I think what it means is that if you can physically access the lot, then you have frontage. A wetland is not. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if we need it in there.
I'm not sure we need it. I mean,
I would cut it.
the two that we're considering don't have an issue. So I'd get rid of it.
Yeah. I would too, Brian.
We may get a note from them on a separate matter. You should look at
Right.
that again.
I'm wondering if we maybe should delete boarding house, if that's gonna be removed from the definitions.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
about that too.
Yeah,
But,
or is that premature maybe?
well, if he's lifted this directly from the bylaw,
He has.
Yeah, strike
then it
boarding
should
house.
probably mirror it, right?
Yeah, strike boarding house.
Oh, strike it? We're taking the definition out, so why do we need it? Yeah.
Yeah, I would get rid of it. Yeah.
We just have
Um,
strange questions.
oh, that's okay. That a lot of the strikes through that you'll see, he's kind of cleaned things up a little bit.
I have a picky question about the bicycle parking. Could we stop there for a second?
Sure. I mean, it was back here, wasn't it?
No,
No.
I think you were just getting to
Coming
it.
to it.
Oh.
Let's see. So I get a quarter of a space.
Per dwelling.
Okay,
per floor.
so for 4 units, it's only one space, which seems small.
And these are covered spaces.
No, I know. And if there's a garage, then you don't have to do it because you can
Right.
just put your bike in.
It's basically for if someone were going to, I think if someone were going to build a
A little, okay, no, maybe it's under D. It's not about,
multifamily.
no, it's still bicycle. Keep going down the page, please. It has to do with the bicycle parking by the
Is
commercial.
everyone
It
frozen
looks like she's frozen.
Oh,
or is it me?
no, that might
No.
be me.
So
Bicycle frozen.
Yeah, my internet connection just got a little unstable, it said.
Yeah, can you
You could-
scroll down a little bit so we can see all of D there?
You scroll
Yeah.
down, D, I think it's there. Yeah, this is so weird, this commercial one. The bicycle parking spaces shall be located no further from the principal entrance to the commercial use than the closest vehicle parking space. So here's the closest vehicle, and then we're gonna jam a bunch of bike spots right next to it? Is that what that means? Am I misunderstanding? Seems
Thank
odd.
The way I picture it is like you've got the front entrance, right? And might be 20 feet to the curb. You got a sidewalk down there and the sidewalk runs along the park, 20 feet there. And then the bike parking would be alongside the entrance kind of a thing.
Like right up close to the entrance.
Yeah.
that's
So it's
what
not
how-
like a second class sort of thing. Okay.
Right.
That's how they like it commercially, anyway.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine.
That I've seen.
Yeah, I just couldn't picture it. Thank you.
I snuck that in when you weren't looking because I like.
You like to zip right up there to the ice
I
cream.
do, yeah.
I know.
It shows what a progressive community we are, like with the
Right.
bikes right
Exactly.
in
It's a
front.
leadership
Somebody else
thing
is going to
again.
be calling us out for that in a good way.
On this one on site design, you
Yeah.
see where it says typically required of
Yeah,
a definitive, so I would take out the word typically.
I said I saw it. I saw it earlier. Oh, typically.
Yeah,
Yeah, if it's required, it's required.
right,
And we can waive it anyway as
right, as it says, yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit below Brian, yeah.
Nice.
Drunken White would be proud, Tim.
Yes.
Remove needless words.
What
remove
an
needless words.
ambiguous word that was, too. I can see entire meetings hanging on that word.
Exactly. I've had cases over, you know, less significant words than this. So it's something good to avoid if we can.
Yep.
Mm. Added this.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that he has sound reasons for doing so, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think he really is trying to put as much in as he thinks he might be able to get away with to allow
Yeah.
this.
It's a good test case, and we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Psyched. Okay.
Ah, look at this. There we go.
I know, isn't it adorable?
I think they're gonna like these. As long as they, don't come back with all red marks through all this stuff.
Right?
I know, and so you can't be so prescriptive or proscriptive, either way.
Yeah.
You know, it has been popping up in the news
Yes,
Oh,
it
yeah.
has.
on
Yes.
NPR.
Yep.
Well, the first deadline's coming, for other towns, December 31st. So
Yeah.
Mm.
There are a lot of communities that are apparently not happy about all this.
I love his lighting.
Oh, I
Right.
was thrilled to see that.
Dark
Yeah.
sky.
Is the word I'm
Wow.
going for. Yeah, I've never even heard of the bug rating, but I like it.
I must say I agree with you, Ann. It never came up in my reviews.
And the Kelvin stuff, usually we have to fight for that. That's so great.
We might have to steal these and put them in our standards.
It's just terrific. Yes.
The turning it off at night, stargazers are going to be swooning over this thing. It's going to be
Right?
You know, we're kind of chuckling about it, but this is the kind of thing that can sway a whole meeting.
Yes.
important stuff.
It's good stuff. Yes, you're right.
So he just called out specifically our stormwater management bylaw and regulations.
Yeah, better to
Yeah,
keep
so-
it short and sweet.
Yep.
Okay, here's the 2-family.
So he added in the definitions that, yes, this could be offset, it could be front and back. It doesn't have to be exactly as illustrated.
Right. And that's just another unfortunate page break,
Yeah.
but hopefully he'll clean that up, or the state will do it for us.
Well, once the red line stuff, this may break altogether differently.
Yeah.
These are the stacked flats.
Mhm.
Hey, Sue, can you
Yeah.
right there? You see illustrations to come? I think that comes out.
That's the one he sent
That's
today.
the one he sent later. I can pull that.
Okay, got it. Sorry, the apartment one. Okay.
Yeah, it was the late arrival. Yeah.
Hot off the press. This evening.
Got it.
If there's still a press and it still gets hot. I don't think there is.
This is just prescriptive stuff of what we'd like to see.
He did change the roof.
That so that the roof
40 is
is big as the bill.
consistent with the map thing.
I think there's a mistake here. It says Westford.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
we got that.
Okay.
that's been caught by a few of us.
Oh, I can't. I just need to. I don't know. I can only
Oh,
highlight.
he's 7 pitch is
It's pretty steep. I think my 200-year-old house is a 5-pitch.
yeah, I think 7 pitch is on the high side. I would
So
yeah,
Want me to ask about that?
I'd go 5 if I had to say.
I would have said 6, but yeah.
And a 12 is super Victorian. I mean, I don't mind it.
Yeah,
But
and 12s can sometimes result in too much roof.
yeah, you're looking right
in the elevation.
Okay.
But he's also saying,
generally. Yeah.
yeah, which doesn't go with the shall, does it?
Well,
Right.
the shall is only typical,
It is
and then
typical.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah, to try and enforce this would be rough, right? Because he's got shall and then you have typical and then generally,
Generally.
you know. Yeah.
These Well-
I thought they did like some kind of survey. They did some driving around and
I think if you take if you take the word shall and replace it with should, then that whole thing becomes much better.
Yeah,
You're typical in general, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of match meaning, yes.
okay.
I'd
So we're
love to
gonna
knock that
should.
7 up a little bit.
We're gonna have should, we're gonna have West Newbury, and we're gonna have 5, between 5 to 12.
Yeah, I don't love 12. But
So is that
like a Victorian
Now
house?
I don't know. I mean,
Some
it depends on the building. I think
It avoids
there
the-
are times when a 12 pitch can work.
yes, and it avoids the A-frame situation. So
And God knows what the
Oh.
pitch is on a French mansard, but
18 and 12 or something.
yeah.
Hmm.
And then on the low slope roofs, I would say are not allowed except for on mixed use buildings, or I would say for porch roofs. You often have to go to a 3 pitch when you've got a porch extending out the front of the building. Or you
Three.
can't have windows on the second story above the porch.
Right, a porch should be lower.
It should be.
As it raised.
Exactly.
Shea Cook is a good example.
3% only for porches or mixed use? Is that what you meant? Or mixed style? Or
I would say a roof pitch of 4 and 12 or less. I don't know what, Ann, you're the
For
expert.
low pitch, low slope? Oh, no. I mean, I think the roofing companies will tell you 2 is low. 3 really depends.
Okay, but somehow I'd like to get the fact that you're allowed to do the low slope on porches.
I know that
Porches and what would you call just a little roof over the front door, a portico or something?
a little entry. I think all of those little flourish type of roofs, even over a bay window, it's going to be a
Yeah,
low slope, right?
yeah. So instead of saying are not allowed, it should be avoided.
And I don't get why mixed use is the
Yeah, I'm not
exception.
sure
What's that all
what
about?
the, why that's so different.
Yeah, and in fact, you could delete that too. You just say
well, I
low
think
slope.
the mixed use is kind of is a commercial style building, but I don't know
No, it
why.
doesn't mean that we want it.
Yeah.
If you
No, I
say
think-
low slope roofs should be avoided, period. And then you could say low slope roofs are appropriate for architectural features that distinguish the roof. Yeah,
Right, because
for
that,
example, parapet,
covers all.
cornice, entryway, bay
Well-
window, and porch.
yeah. All right, we got to dictate this more thoroughly.
Yeah.
Let's start again.
Okay, so I was suggesting, feel free to
Okay.
disagree with me. Low slope roofs should be avoided, period.
Okay,
And then the next sentence would start, low slope roofs can be used for architectural features that distinguish the roof from the building's uppermost story. For example, and here I would say parapets, cornices, entryways, bay windows, porches.
Nice.
Well done, Ray. Yep.
Well, bay windows, comma, and porches.
It's drunken white.
How about a
Yeah,
shed?
I know, right?
How about a shed?
The fact that I just gave my last final, I might become really hard to deal with. I mean, I could go into like trying to take it out on you guys. Now I don't have students to waggle my finger at.
Hey, would that low slope roof be appropriate on a dormer?
Yeah,
Yes,
dormers.
they could.
Yeah.
On a shed dormer, not on a
Exact, not doghouse.
Yeah, I don't know if you want
Farmer.
to, yeah. as you said,
Right.
But we're just giving examples, so
This is
I don't
kind
think.
of this is pretty much design common sense if you don't want your roof to leak.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
how much design with uncommon sense.
Yeah, but, you know,
Common sense isn't vary, is that what you're telling me?
yeah, yeah. We-
The window diagrams, look at those
Here's the
regulating lines. Makes my heart beat a little faster.
You did add material and design elements,
Yeah, we'll see what
talking
the
about
state does.
siding,
to
Essex County.
Residential design in Essex County, good heavens.
Mhm.
Wow.
La-di-da.
Recognizable system of proportions and symmetry,
I like all that, yeah.
I can see the eye rolling even now.
depth
For
and shadow line.
unambiguous asymmetry.
I can hear the chuckling in the review room.
So this is, I think, a lot of what they do when they do form-based code,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is how you get built.
Well, this is what we would
Not
like to
built.
see. I mean, who knows if they knock it out, they knock it out, but it will help us get the look we want.
I
Right.
think when you're submitting something like this, you try for every little scrap that you want and see what
Yep.
that
So
was
he
a
wasn't talking about fire door exits as in doors at all. He was referring to fire escapes.
By the way, can we use the circumflex on the C for facade? Is that American?
No. That's not a circumflex, it's a cedilla.
Oh, okay, Cedilla. Are we allowed, is that something that's in American spelling?
Well, it's in how you pronounce it, facade.
Yeah, I know that, but it's typically that's not considered an English letter, right?
I think it's great.
Well, it's an accepted,
Yeah,
everybody knows what
I'm
it is.
correct. I'm correct. There's no fancy C.
Not in
English.
English, but there are plenty
No.
of languages where there is. So let's just
Yeah.
see what happens.
All right.
So
It does
he,
show up in the Cambridge dictionary, but not in American dictionary.
So now we're getting down to the
Okay,
interesting
affordability, right? Yeah.
right. Yeah, so fractional portable. So in our zoning, you can, get, when you have a fraction, you get paid money. He's saying in this one, because of a requirement of the regulations, HLC, it just has to be rounded down to the next whole number, which means if it's 6 or less, you would get nothing.
Yeah,
But if
it's not going to be
What?
6
Get more.
anyway.
That's academic in this context.
Right.
Yes.
So, and then he talks about all of the stuff that's equitable out of fair housing, like where they're located and how they're divided.
Usually include that anyway.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
I had a question here on this statement, the methodology of evaluation that's acceptable to the planning board, right? Nope, you were there.
Nope.
This,
Where are we?
8.4.9, yeah, so I just wondered what was behind that and if it might be good to spell out what you're looking for or, what the thinking was there.
My thinking was this should be struck from the language.
The entire thing?
Well, we discussed that
Yeah,
last
they
time
were-
and you just said to leave it in.
Yeah. We had that document from John Sarkis, and we've heard from others that these things may not be feasible.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that if we strike this provision, they'll strike all of the affordability stuff. So
I'm just referring specifically to having a methodology that's acceptable without saying what it is, and then
well, I think it's going to be hard to come up, Wendy.
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, of
it's
course.
when you see the documents and you get another expert opinion about what a developer is submitting, is that,
Right.
is there a reasonableness test?
Yeah, I think you would
This
do.
is going to be a controversial clause in here for the state.
But
Okay.
what it does is it does give us the ability to request a spreadsheet of some sort, which may be perfectly adequate to explain it, rather than someone asserting that it's infeasible.
Right. And it could be something that could be peer reviewed by others as well. Your methodology might be to get others to agree with it.
I
Thanks.
could support putting in planning board and with a peer review type of thing. If that would be more,
I don't have the option to raise my hand.
Oh, there's John.
Oh, am I here?
Yep.
Hi, John.
I'm so sorry. I didn't really intend to do that. My only comment on this would be that there really needs to be a mechanism to waive it. If this is a use by right permit, in what permit would you waive it? How would you waive the provision? And I also I like what Wendy has said. Some definition helps, but it's going to be hard to do that. I agree with that.
Yeah, my gut feeling here is that we should strike a bunch of this and say the planning board may waive some or all of the inclusionary housing provisions of section 6.1 when the applicant demonstrates that that such requirements are financially infeasible, period. Because I mean, anybody that comes to us is going to demonstrate to us, they got to come up with something. Saying that they have to use a methodology of evaluation that is acceptable to the planning board is redundant and unnecessary. If you don't use a method that's acceptable to the planning board is not going to waive it.
You won't have demonstrated it.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think it just confuses things, and then it brings up things like, well, okay, what kind of spreadsheet do you have to present?
Suppose you're right.
Fair enough. Either way, where will you waive it? Will it be you need to define that, because the only permit you're issuing here would be a site plan review, correct?
yes.
Yes. So you couldn't waive inclusionary within a site plan review.
Well, there's another clause earlier about waiving some of the subdivision submittal requirements. So, I mean,
Which could be within the site plan review, right?
well, that's why I'm presuming that the same thing would apply here. And I don't know legally how that flies, John. I agree.
Sue,
Right.
maybe you can just highlight that again and hit the strike through.
As I'm trying to find that, I think something must be in my way.
I hate Adobe.
I know what I want to do, so I'll fix it after, but
Could we just say waive this during the site plan review? I don't know.
Well, isn't. Go ahead.
I mean, John does raise a good question.
You could say with a separate, document,
I don't think that we need to have that. I appreciate what you're saying, John. I don't think we need to have that specificity here.
right. I think it can be.
I would think my lender would want it. Yeah, I mean,
Well, no, I think, yeah, I mean, someplace along the line, there has to be signed text that is signed and authorized saying that we waived it.
right.
Yeah, I agree. But I
Yeah.
don't think that we need to say it here in this text, just what that would be.
Okay. Somewhere though, it has to be provided in writing. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah. And whenever we waive anything, it always ends up in writing someplace. But let's say that you're the developer and your bank wanted a certain thing signed, then I think we could do that, right? If we've taken a vote to waive it as a planning board, then we could come up with a document that would please your finance people.
Sure, as long as it's legally binding and all that. Yep.
Yeah. And we would vote on a waiver. So that would
Right.
establish the legality of it. And here in the bylaw, it says that we may waive it. So,
Yeah, and I didn't mean to take up your time. I just would suggest that be addressed, the actual mechanism for waiver, and you could think on that before you go to the final version.
Yeah, let's ask Dylan if he has any thoughts on how to best include that.
Okay,
That's
I'm gonna mute again. I tried to
Yeah.
raise my hand, but I couldn't figure out.
Again, I just think that's one of those details that, you could put in, with a CPA sort of, certified construction firm or something, I'm not sure what would end up being acceptable to put
yeah,
into the
I
zoning
think
bylaw.
our job would be to vote on it, and then we could work with the developer to come up with the actual, God, I'm forgetting the term of art here, Tim. The actual instrument that would be acceptable to all parties.
Well, yeah, actually, I was referring to when the question Wendy brought up about,
Methodology.
Methodology.
how does this study actually happen? And it's not just us sitting around, even though
Right.
I think we're kind of smart about it, but you'd want another party involved.
Yeah, I think you'd want it peer reviewed. Yeah.
Well, do we have peer review language in here that's general enough to include that review as well as engineering reviews? Open-ended question. I'm not sure.
I mean, we can always call on the town's attorney, right?
Financial.
Oh, well,
Well, the state has a methodology for determining whether things are financially unfeasible. And they've suggested that if we have things in our bylaw that make things financially infeasible, that they'll be struck down.
Huh.
Interesting.
I don't know. Is this going to
Yeah,
cause a problem with the?
I don't know what the methodology would be.
Did he copy this from?
The other inclusionary, bylaw
No,
sections.
I don't think so.
No,
I
we
don't
don't-
think
we
there's
have any-
waiving in ours.
No, we don't have waiver language typically.
No. No.
So we can ask him where it came from and if he,
Right.
could expand it or support it or change it.
Yeah, I mean, I was, encouraged by the.
Word demonstrates, I think that does it, like you all were saying. So I don't really think we need the using a methodology.
I don't think we do either.
Okay.
I mean, if we counter in a hearing and say, you haven't adequately demonstrated this, we need more, or we're going to have it peer reviewed, then that's part of the conversation, right?
You don't think we should put peer review in the language?
Mm,
No.
not feel we need it.
Well, it sounded like Wendy thought the question from the select board was that it should be there should be some more descriptive element.
No, I think the fix you've made is good. I just think if you have something generic there and don't explain what it is, then you're opening yourself up for, trouble.
Yeah, so better not to have it.
Yeah, I think that's fine because you still have to demonstrate it. So.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All
Who
right.
knows what form the demonstration might take?
Yep,
Mhm.
fair enough. Okay.
So I had a couple questions on the first section of the bonuses, the item A right there. Just a little bit concerned that if the protected open space is not conveyed to the town, but by this language, the town is still responsible for enforcing it, and I don't know how that would work.
So is it number A?
Yes.
Yeah, how could the town enforce it if it didn't? Why would the town enforce it if it had been conveyed to someone else?
Yeah.
Like when they're conveyed to Greenbelt, the town doesn't take any role at all.
Mm. And then my
Right.
second question is
Go ahead.
this public use open space, or is this just, private open space of the district?
I think this is what it's saying is unless it's given to the town or the Conservation Commission, that it has to have a recorded restriction. But that if it's given to the town, then it doesn't, because if it's given to the town, it could be
It already has it.
by 97.
But wouldn't it, doesn't protected open space have to be conveyed to someone, or are you saying, I mean, do homeowners associations typically?
Homeowners associations can protect it themselves, or they can convey it. Most town requirements require that it's conveyed to some, with protected with a restriction.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just say any proposed open space shall be subject to a recorded restriction enforceable by the town?
Well, I'm just not sure how, what entity of the town would be doing this enforcing. This kind of gets back to the whole trails use question.
Yes.
I mean, I just have a question. I'm not comfortable personally even trying to get 20% here. I'm not sure why we're even trying to put this in. And I don't know if anybody else shares my concern. The developer is going to try to probably most likely maximize what he can do on the land. Why would he want to build more affordable units?
Wait a minute, this is A under, this
Bonuses.
has to do with the increasing of density?
Right. These are bonuses.
Is a bonus. Why are we even trying to do this on this
Yeah.
with this bylaw?
So
I don't know, it's already really crowded.
It's already too crowded. It's too crowded. We talked about this a little bit, but
We did.
so-
It bugged you the last time too.
it did. It's still going to bug me, but I will defer to the wisdom of the board.
Yeah, and I will defer to the wisdom of the board too. I don't mind it being in here, but I wouldn't mind it if it was deleted either. When it comes to this specific language, I have suggestions if we leave it in. But I think the bigger question is, do we strike the bonuses section altogether?
Well, I sort of feel like, talk about infeasible. I think this is kind of the definition of infeasible.
Right.
It would be so squished. Would you be able to adhere to all these setbacks and stuff if you had 20% more units?
Yeah, and the
More units, sorry,
glib answer,
1/3 more, 33% more units.
the glib answer to that is, well, we have it in there. If they do it, then they do it fine. If not, it's up to them to show it to us, et cetera, et cetera. But again, I agree with you that this will probably never be used.
Well, I think the other thing is it may work against us in trying to get this thing passed. People will say, well, wait a minute, it's already about density. Why are we trying to make it?
Why are we trying to make it more dense?
That's true too.
The reality,
Politically, it might be a mistake to have this in here.
the reality in this town is that you're going to get at most probably 40 units, and it's probably going to be 30 to 40 units. And they're going to maximize those units because if the 10% affordability is passed, he has to pay for those units. I just don't see how there'd be enough land available to give him a bonus to create a more dense project.
Not with the setbacks and stuff that we have.
I know.
I guess the only way you could have more units would be to make them smaller.
Really tiny, yeah.
Yeah, which would not necessarily be a bad thing, but I think
Well, but
I think they're going to max out bedrooms. So
The bedroom thing is absolutely going to be maxed out on this.
right.
Well, I think what I'm finding persuasive here is what Brian brought up, and that's, being politically expedient. If this is enough to bug Brian and it's extra language and it's confusing whether or not it could be done, and then whether or not it would ever be implemented, I'm feeling persuaded that we should just strike the whole section.
And I like affordable housing. I just think in this, what we're trying to do here is zone a parcel to meet the state requirements.
Yep.
And we'll let the chips fall where they may. Let's not make it crazier than it should be. But
Yep.
No, I agree with you.
Concur
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, let's
Yes.
just strike it.
Is Tim?
Well, I
Yes.
haven't heard from
Yeah.
Deb or Tim. I don't know. I don't want to just,
Well, no, I agree.
And, I think this was the state policy and, they elected not to have a separate requirement for affordable housing. So,
right, they didn't even want any. That's why I'm not
Right.
sure this will live with the 10%, but
true, but I think the bonus, yeah, it really is totally unrealistic when you look at, increase to 20 units per acre and things like that. So it just doesn't make any sense for West Newbury.
I also think that, again, politically, I'm very interested in our being clear that this is not about affordability. This is about this particular state required zoning to create housing, period. And let's put our affordability eggs in a different basket and work hard on that. But
Yeah,
not
yeah.
waters with this one.
that's where I'm at. So,
Where did that
Okay.
language
Which come from, I was just curious, does anyone recognize it? I don't want to belabor it, but
The language we just took out?
yeah,
No, I think generally it was made up specifically in terms of saving. He knew it was important he thought it was important to protect that the open space. So if you
Mhm.
look at a particular parcel, we're going to take part of that parcel and put an overlay district on it. The rest of that parcel is still developable. So he was giving us a vehicle whereby we could encourage whoever buys the whole parcel to protect that other piece.
Yeah. No, I get. Yeah, I
I
get.
get I get the,
Yeah.
the intention there, and
And then
You know,
we also said it was important, affordable housing was important. So he was trying to find a way to address that.
okay.
Kind of.
So he just kind of lifted this. I was just wondering if he lifted it from the standard that's out there, but
No,
okay,
no, this was specific to our situation.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's it. So I have some things to give him. Do you want to see that last
Drawing?
drawing?
Sure.
See if I
The
can
ski resort building.
Right. Where is it? Where's my share button?
there we go.
I think I've been to that youth hostel someplace
Right?
40 or 50 years ago.
Well, look at all this. Oh, look at all these low slope accoutrements.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
Well,
Good thing
I
they're,
see.
good thing they're allowed and provided
Oh,
for.
See, there's a low slope right there, right?
Over the
Exactly, they're
portico
shutting
as
dormant.
well. Yes.
Here.
Although I find that there are lines missing on this drawing, and
Yes, that dormer is magically levitating.
thank you.
All the dormers are kind of
I know.
unpeeled somehow, but oh, never mind.
I'll get the idea. Yeah. I'll get the idea.
I think you and I need to go and make a consulting firm.
Perfect.
Super picky.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so that's excellent effort here, and Sue, there's
That's the
a
easy
couple of things
step.
to get cleaned up, but I think I feel we're there on it, at least in a position that we're comfortable that the state can look at this. Now, it's my understanding that, and I think I thought we could submit 2 sites, and I guess we could, but you have to submit all the other detail on those sites. Maybe you can describe that?
Yeah, so the compliance model that Dotson and Flinka will run with these regulations will be based on the district that we submit, the district or districts that we submit. So you either decide on those districts, and if you change the districts, then it's going to change the compliance model. So you can't kind of say, here are the regulations, we'll make it fit either this 6-acre parcel or this 6-acre parcel, because the compliance model that they run through is really specific. And they give shape files and everything to the state and say, here's the plot, here are the shape files, and they run it all through. So the regulations, you need to make a decision on the district as well as the regulations.
So it sounds like running the compliance model is a relatively daunting task. I mean, is it having them run both just in case one doesn't comply? I mean, I don't want to be a naysayer here, but maybe one really complies much better than the other. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they both comply, but I think, like I said, they're not working in abstracts when they do it. They want to see the shape files, the plots of land, the wetlands. They want to see the real deal. So I think you can either say we want to do both, or you choose one, or
I guess this is my question.
Yeah.
Is it in Dodson and Flinker's scope to run more than one so that we can see them both as part of deciding whether we want to submit one or two, and if only one, which one? Because it might be influenced by that modeling outcome.
So my understanding is that they have done the compliance model. They say it works generally because they didn't have they don't have the regulations. They just had the excluded land, all of that stuff. And they say both work. Okay. I think it's just the matter of going to the state with it where you need the decision.
Got it.
So I think that's, the way I see it here for us tonight. We can say, we're comfortable, let's proceed with the two that we've talked about, the Dunn parcel or the Knapp parcel. Or we can opine about which one we would like. I've come to the conclusion that I could support just one. I think way back in the summer, I wanted to keep my options open and for the town, but I'd be happy to submit one. And we know one has a more willing participant apparently at this time. The other one does not, but those things can change. Family situations change. So I just thought we should kind of talk about that for a little bit here tonight. Before we ask, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm of two minds of this, but I'm coming around to that thought as well, Brian. I mean, in spirit, I think, the concept of more housing and all that kind of stuff, it all makes sense. And, my gut feeling is to do more than the absolute minimum. But when it comes to, we have an urgent need in town, and that's to get something through that's going to satisfy the state. That's our urgent need. And that's our high priority. And I think we're more likely to get something through if we just identify one parcel and put that before the town.
I think that's well put. That the political expediency in this situation may overrule the desire to have
because you're gonna have some people at town meeting that want to do more, and there's some people at town who don't want to do anything. But the bottom line is we got to do something.
Something, yeah.
Or there are, from everything I've been listening to in recent months, I mean, the repercussions are serious and they're not going to bend on them. And so we got to have something.
Yeah, as our small town, we can't afford not to be moving in the right direction on this. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And our best chance at getting something through in the shortest amount of time is to do the minimum amount that we need to do now. And then you know, in the future, there can be more philosophical conversations as other projects come up.
We were carrying two.
In the case that the status of the parcels might change, right, over time, something might happen, you know, one might be sold for, you know, for some other development purpose. So I think we're getting close enough now where we're kind of getting more clarity on that. It'd probably be good to, for the reasons you articulated, to go with one parcel.
Mhm.
So, and well, I'll put my cards out there. I mean, for me, you know, you look at what might appear to be the easier path with a party that is at least expressed interest. Um, and you never know where that goes, but I think that parcel would be the Knapp parcel. And that's kind of where I'm at. But I think, you know, it's a big decision here. And I'm not saying we have to do that tonight, but I think we'd have to do it on January 2nd.
Well, my inclination is actually to the other parcel because it's closer to downtown, so it makes for a better walking experience for the people who are there. And, you know, I mean, it's good for the businesses that are right downtown as well.
Mhm. I'm more inclined to Dunn for that reason, but also because I think sort of a crass political reason too, I suppose. If you look at the number of abutters within a certain distance to that parcel, I think it's much, much smaller than Knapp. And
Hadn't
it's
thought about
also
that.
a larger piece of property. I think that combination of the density on Knapp, which is a smaller spot with many, many, many more abutters, all, well, on three sides of it anyway. I think I'm right about this. I think I'm right about the number of abutters. It may just be a more unpopular vote. You may get way, way, way more opposition there than you might at Dunn. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think either one of them is great in terms of traffic, frankly. They both have kind of curves in the road and sort of limited sight lines and stuff, but that's something that, you know, would have to be overcome somehow.
Yeah, I find Dunn probably would have very difficult sight line on entering 113.
Well, I have to say, I mean, when I saw the traffic study at one of the workshops that we went
Yeah.
to, I was amazed at the number of accidents or police, you know, interventions, whatever, at that Church Street intersection. And I'm kind of
Oh, is
thinking
that right?
that some sort of signalization might be in the future of that spot anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of going out on a weird limb there, but I don't know. It just
Yeah,
seems like it's a kind of a more urban spot, if I can use that word, and it also, I think, would be less visible from the street. I think it's going to be an
So
issue.
you think
I think I'm
some
more,
representative from the family will stand up and say, we have no intention of ever selling.
but
And
as we've said, this isn't about that. This is about zoning,
it's
right?
true. It's true.
Let me just share the my map thing.
Maybe I'm just spitballing too much here. Let's see. We have Maple Street.
You got all these abutters right here, but they're sort of on the other side of the hill. And
Exactly.
you just got these,
Empty back there.
yeah. And then down here,
Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking of like a circle around it. No, I could be wrong about that.
yeah, hard to know.
There's really not that many at Knapp either.
Yeah.
But in terms of, there's a few people
Mhm.
on
Yep,
Merrill Street.
Merrill.
Is it
Yep,
Merrill?
that's right. Yep. And then there's that other, it's a lot of open, but it would have to be, it would be more toward the front. Yeah, okay. And I guess when I look at the people on Main Street, there's going to be a lot of those either way. Although a bunch of the Main Street stuff near Dunn is the two churches
Yep.
and commercial properties. You know, if you look at
Yeah, and
residential,
like I was saying, like this,
way fewer.
because of the slope, I mean, these abutters are pretty protected, really.
And then, oh, and then it really is commercial. It's all that down churches and commercial stuff. Whereas at Knapp, you know, you look at Pleasant Street, you look at Harrison. I just think there are a lot of houses
Yeah,
right.
and you know, this traffic ain't great to begin with.
No, it's very odd.
Yeah.
I don't know, Brian, though. I take your point about, I mean, I think you make a good point that if there's a willing seller there.
Yeah.
Well, we're
But we
fairly
don't
certain.
know. We don't know anything about the numbers, you know.
No.
The other thing that I thought was sort of intriguing about the Dunn property was when we had the community, involvement sessions, that seemed like there was so much more potential for development on the Dunn property and preservation of open space, combined with, a couple of very significant developments in there, different configurations, where it seemed the other property with the wetlands in the back and it being much more narrow, it just seemed like it was more limited potential there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, again, I think when you're close, all right, I'm flexible. I'm not saying my mind isn't made up, and it's not like I'm going to dig in on this, but you got people that can walk to downtown. You've already got kind of, that's sort of considered a busy area. And I agree that the parcel, because it's wider and it's all upland, I think there are easier ways to come up with something on that parcel. I think what you have here is people would just be outraged about all the traffic coming and going.
Yeah, I hear you. I think people might be upset that the agricultural aspect of Dunn is being taken out as, zoned out.
Yep.
Well, but both not Dunn and Knapp are out of business as the agricultural businesses that they were. Neither one of them is operating that way.
Well, yeah, Knapp, no, maybe.
Well, the one thing that's absolutely sure.
Yeah,
is that
they're both out. You're right. Yeah.
There are going to be all kinds of people upset about all kinds of things.
Mhm.
There are going to be new reasons why they don't like it that we haven't ever thought of before. And that's just the way it's going to be. That's government. That's politics. You could almost flip a coin here. I don't know, Tim.
I still have more of a preference for the Dunn property for the reasons that we talked about. Just the location of it seems, if we ever got public transit, it seems like, the stop would be more downtown on a bus route than, up the road. I think that's why we ended up with these two. They were both pretty viable options. I just think that there's more potential for the Dunn property.
And I don't see Deb Hamilton on my little screen here.
I had to leave for some reason.
Oh,
Deb with us?
I think we weren't quite exciting enough to keep Deb's
Maybe
attention.
not. Maybe not.
Still listed. Maybe she had to step away. Or connection something.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think, Sue, can you find out for January 2nd? Can they prepare both easily enough or not? It looks like there's three votes for if we were to vote on this for Dunn. And one for Knapp.
Yeah, is the question whether they would run both?
Yes.
Like step them both to the state? Because I think, yeah, I can ask. I think they technically could. That would mean you're asking the state to consider two separate ones. And I think
I mean, I talked to a representative in Newbury, and they're looking at 5 parcels.
Right.
So,
Right, we could put as many parcels in as we want. The question is, are we saying this district or this district, or are we saying these districts? That's my question. Are you asking them to do 2 separate ones, or is it one
I
district?
don't know. I guess I'm just. I mean, we can go with a vote, a hard vote tonight, and it looks like we you know, it would go for the done.
Well,
Are we
first of
making
all-
are we making a mistake right now tonight, or maybe we ought to just sleep on it until through the
Yeah.
holidays? And
But I think it's a 2-step process, Brian. The first step is do we want to submit? Do we want to promote to the town 1 or 2?
Right, that's,
I know, and there's a divergence of opinion here.
No, I think the divergence of opinion here is which one to do if we only do 1. I haven't heard anybody yet say, I want both. So have we really had that conversation?
No, I think we at least what I've just heard is that we kind of think we should pick one.
That's
It'll
where I am.
it'll be an easier, presentation, and we're meeting the letter of the law. We're not trying to do too much. You can hear all of the.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with that. So
Yeah.
then what is the goal of, I can see having them run for our own edification. But I think if we're going to submit, we've got to submit the one that we
I would
want.
pick the one. Yes.
Yeah. So is it a useless exercise for them to do it? What will we learn from their doing the compliance models for us that we don't already know? That might.
I'm not sure. I'm just not
I'm
sure.
not trying to
Yeah.
say that I have an answer. I'm just wondering, it's like medical testing. We really need to do that? What's it going to change?
And it would be good to get Deb's feedback here, but I don't think
Yes.
we're going to get that tonight. So I think we're, pending any other developments, I think we should see what Dodson and Flinker, if they'll run both and sit on this over the next 2 weeks and come ready to January 2nd for a firm vote. We do agree, I think we're in agreement, the 4 of us, that we should have 1 parcel selected. That's what I'm hearing, at least tonight. Okay, good. I think we kind of talked through the scheduled piece of this, correct, Sue?
a little bit. So, and I laid the schedule, Wendy's hand is up. And I laid the schedule out a little more deeply in the planner's report, which I can share in a minute.
Well, okay. Before we move off of this, I do want to talk about the water report that is related to this. Did everybody get a chance to just kind of skim through the water report from Tater and Howard?
Yeah, but its focus is on fire flows.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, I just think we need to acknowledge that we've read it. We're not really in a position to challenge it. It does appear that either project would have enough water. The NAP would certainly have plenty from pressure standpoint, but the way I read it, it seems like it would be fine. But again, I'm not a water engineer, but at all.
Right. It just slightly favored NAP in terms of that it wouldn't need any additional infrastructure, and that then would need some small.
Something. Okay. So I think it was more that we acknowledge that we have seen it, and so be it. Okay.
Yes.
And I don't think I guess we wanted to confirm that the board didn't need any additional information on water flows from that consultant. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
I think it's much
Yes,
else that
I
they
think
can
that's
provide.
fine. Yes,
Okay.
correct. Okay, well, let's move off this. We want to just talk about the Meridian proposal for the subdivision hearing coming up in January.
Sure. Let me find that. I need to close just a few things here.
Sure.
Oh, I actually think that's in the binder. One moment. Here it is. All right. So we did execute this contract, but I just want to share what they were going to be reviewing. This was based on others that they, oops, I'm sorry. Can you see that? Or
Yes.
okay. This is kind of what they would be reviewing. In the past, they didn't look at scheduling environmental impact statements, and this one was pretty brief as well. I don't think we need anyone help with that. And as always, these are, based on what they provide, and if they put in as many hours as they say they will. One thing, if they have to put in more, they'll come and ask for further funds, or they'll ask us to ask the applicant for further funds. And this amount was, we did get a check for this amount from the applicant already.
Okay, good. Very good.
So they did bring up that they didn't think that they would need that many hours and for stormwater calculations, but I reminded them that we have new regulations and that they would need to provide some. So, but whatever isn't used would go back.
Goes back. Absolutely.
Easier to give it back at the end than to be scrapping for it when we don't have enough to pay the bill.
Yes, that's right. Okay, very good. So that's, and Sue, a reminder, what time is that going to be? Is that first we tee up with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, on the 2nd. All right.
Right.
So the next item is an update on the proposed public trails review meeting. That was where are we? Last week.
Wednesday.
Sue and I attended, and let Sue I think you've been in more of those meetings. I had a number of comments. I found the process personally confusing, and I thought it was a little bit of an overreach to solve a problem. But I'll defer to the wisdom of the others that feel we need to have this. I did come out of it thinking hearing that it's an optional for the applicants to fill in, and so we'll go from there. So,
Yeah. So I think where we find ourselves, where the town finds itself, is that there are a lot of expectations that trails will get built and maintained and managed. And I think that all of the situations aren't thought through thoroughly, and no funding sources are found for them early on, or when either the town buys open space or when a developer is asked to provide open space or trails. Sometimes there's just not a clear understanding or a clear pathway to implementing the work that needs to be done and then maintaining it in the long term. So this is just I think, an effort to kind of put a number of questions out front and identify any potential, identify what the land is supposed to be for, identify where it is, and just get a lot more specific on it so that the town can then and the different entities, in town, and sorry, a cat just stepped on
We're
my
still,
screen.
we can
Are you
see,
still okay?
yeah, we're still okay.
Okay.
We had a
Yeah, we got it.
cat's
Yeah.
eye view, as it were.
Sorry. Um,
So what is the role of the planning board in all of this?
so I think there were just a number. They wanted everyone that kind of has a hand in the process to kind of look at this list of kind of a checklist. Similar when we're doing site plan review, we kind of say, have we looked at this? Have we looked at this? Have we thought about this? That's really what it is. I mean, I passed it along to everyone. It's just a checklist and a list of questions that we would ask of ourselves or of the applicant would, or the landowner would answer about the land, so that when it comes to the town, they're like, oh, here's what we need in terms of either funds to implement or management capacity, etc. I don't know as I'm doing a very good job of explaining this. Wendy, do you want to jump in? I think Wendy's been involved in it longer.
Yeah, no, I think you did fine. So I
Yeah.
think that the biggest thing we want to stress is it's not a regulatory thing. It's, it's not a permit or anything like that, but I
Right.
wouldn't say that it's optional. There's an expectation that someone that wants a trail will complete it. But,
Right.
but I do think some of the points you raised, Brian, are good, and that it's not exactly clear how this will correlate with the permitting process for the planning board. Like, at what point does this come in? So with your patience, I think, we can work through this, but I think it's going to take a couple efforts to see how it will best align. Same thing might happen with conservation, because they do have a permitting process. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was particularly struck with comments that Angus made that with the last two acquisitions in town, Sawmill Brook and the Lovejoy, which will be forthcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And
We
he
haven't seen
expressed,
those at all, really.
well,
So,
he expressed concern that all of a sudden we need a bridge and we need this and we need that for Sawmill Brook and whatever.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, and we had to move very quickly with an opportunity to make this happen. And I just didn't see in a 3+ page document how this would help in situations such as that, or with Lovejoy. I think the idea of having let's have a discussion about trails are being considered and whatnot, but I think it should be more of a two-step process that you identify that there's a desire out there and a broad outline. And then depending on the circumstances, you might go to part B and seeking information and detail of whatnot. It struck me as a very, frankly, and I don't mean any offense, it was confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hopefully you can put that in the mix. But I thought those last two as I said, those last two acquisitions, and yes, there's holes in the funding and how things are going to be done, but I'm not sure how that form will help you get there.
Well, I mean, I think it could have with Sawmill Brook, because the CPC has been reviewing this application for, a long time. So if part of the CPC process is reviewing this checklist, and then maybe trails are included as the, part of the application, I think that could be helpful. But you're right, if you have to hurry up and then it's closing and you got to throw everything in it, we're not going to have time to do a checklist, much less gather the proponents and the, language and everything.
so back in the day, if I can say that, when trails began to be a thing that were popular and we wanted to make them more solidified, the big push by the planning board was to get proponents of development to agree that they would grant some trail easements. And then there were eager beaver groups that, rose up, open space folks and trails folks, and they would get together and they would go to Concom meetings and get permitting done, and they would use a lot of volunteer labor or grants or whatever and build trails and kind of maintain them. I think since then we've been through a few generations of complexity and sophistication and staffing levels in town. We've added a lot of layers. So is this really about how do we get stuff built in a way that's legally correct and accessible? And then how is it maintained and how do we pay for it? It's downstream of the planning board, it seems to me. I mean, is the town trying to identify an entity that's in charge of trails and it's kind of like hot potato and nobody wants it? Is it a money thing? What's the
No,
beat?
and the planning board is just one entity that may or may not be involved in this. You know, it's more of a town-wide issue of who is responsible, how are we gonna build these, how are we gonna maintain them?
So it sounds like
Um,
this is a thing that's bugging Angus, if I can say that. And
Well,
I
the
think
land-
he's
the
right
land
to bring
agent.
it. Yeah, he's right to bring it to the fore. But I
Yeah.
think this is a kind of like the kennel thing. It's a lot of people are going to have to get together, which I think is what you were doing, and
Right.
figure out what are the issues and what's the best way to handle them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've for years, you know, going all the way back to the whole John Cena thing down at the end of Bailey's Lane
Mm.
here. I've always figured if we as a planning board secure a public trail easement, I'm just going to be blunt here. We've done our job.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
we're counting on some other entity to make those trails work. And then my personal experience in towns, just as a resident, is that once the public knows about a trail, if it's a good trail, that the people using the trail are the people, you know, that's what maintains the trail. Like it's like the beach at Mill Pond. You know, there used to be a beach where the dock is, and that's because people would swim their dogs there. The dogs going in and out of Mill Pond create the beach. When they move the dogs away, that came back to non-beach character, and the new dog beach now is the very nice beach that, I mean, it's the users that maintain the trails just by walking on them, just by using them. And sometimes by more than that. I mean, I've cleared some trails in town just on my own. So the thing is to get the trail easement. I think ECTA is great. But that's our job. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm sort of counting on people in town to step up and work on the trails. If I heard that, you know, there was a bridge project, I know I would step up, volunteer to help build it. And I think things have gotten kind of snagged up in the whole legal thing. Used to be for a trail, you put down some logs and a couple of pressure treated planks and you're good to go.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
would you be opposed, as a board to just, if a developer is talking about a trail, to just providing the checklist to say, these are the kinds of things you should think about? I mean,
Well, who should think about the developer?
if a developer is proposing a trail as part of their open space development.
Well, it's actually, my experience is we sort of push for it.
Right. So I'm just saying, if that situation is happening, would you be opposed to just saying, this is the checklist the town is using, you know? Could you
What's the-
complete it?
It sort of depends if we expect the developer to construct the trail, which we've kind of gotten around to doing. It used to be that what we did was get the easements, as I say, and then other groups usually built the trails.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and in fact, we've had some bad experiences when we're counting on the developer to build the trail, like the stuff around
well,
my
it
Huh?
Drake's. Well,
Drake,
Drake's and also at
Collinsville.
Okay,
Follinsby,
Yeah.
in Follinsby, yeah, what the developer put down to initially establish the trails quickly deteriorated. And the homeowners association, it was written right into the whole decision that they would maintain the trails. And they were pointing back at the developer.
Right, I remember all that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's, you know, the beginning of the meeting, we talked about some of the recent experiences, and Whetstone is one, you know, cottages is one. So, I mean, you know, I think this process can use some fine tuning, but I do think there's a benefit to some kind of, you know, localized trail review.
I think there is too. I'm just questioning, I mean,
Planning board.
if
though.
I'm a developer, right? If I'm, I don't know, Ray Sarkis, and I'm gonna develop this piece of land, and I'm open, the planning board, they wanna have a trail easement, that's good. I'll put a trail easement in there. But I don't know why I need a checklist of all this other stuff. I mean, as the developer, I provide the easement and then there it is.
Yeah, you go do it. Somebody else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
that's-
and
if
now
that's
if the town wants to take advantage of this easement, which I figure, and in some cases, like, you know what I'll do is I'll mow that area down and I'll put down an initial layer of this. And then when that's done, I'm good to go. That's a great starting point. And you know,
Yeah, I think that's fine. If the developer is not intending to build the trail, there's no reason for them to do the checklist.
I mean, there's an example of one that was really successful was with the whole Ocean Meadow and that trail that connects up from Chase Street. You know, there's a couple of simple bridges there and people use that all the time now.
But that, I mean, that was one of our examples that was not, because where it's supposed to exit onto Main Street, there's an argument about the easement.
Well, that's another thing. That's
But that's
the
part
other
of-
end of the trail. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it just, the idea of the meeting was to get all these entities, in at one table, and I was really pleased at how many people showed up and just to start the conversation. So it may not be something the planning board, has to deal with, but I mean, I think your input is certainly valuable in the process.
Well, I will say that as long as I'm on the planning board, I'm still going to be pushing for these trail easements. I mean, in my mind, it's a great legacy to the town, and if some future date you can connect some of these things up to make better, because I mean, trails are wonderful. A lot of abutters are very skeptical of them, oh, the teenagers are going to smoke pot on the trail and there's drug deals going to go down and stuff. But once those trails are established and people start using them, fantastic, it's a fantastic resource. So don't take the things I'm saying as any indication that I'm trying to wash my hands of the whole deal. It's just, I just see developer, planning board, you establish the easement, maybe you do initial trail work, and then it's the developer, I'm sure, would want out.
Yeah.
And the planning board, for as far as I'm concerned, as a planning board member, I want out as well. If you ask me to, join the West Newbury Trail Association or something like that, work on trails on weekends and stuff, well, I'm very open to that, but I view that as sort of a separate effort.
Mhm.
I was a little surprised that I didn't hear a lot, open space seemed to usually be the people that would take the lead on this. It seemed to be very driven by Michelle Green and a very legalistic approach.
Mhm.
I was surprised at that.
I have a couple thoughts, Brian. One is just thinking about the planning board's role and the reluctance of developers and their inability, frankly, to care about or do a good job of constructing trails. Maybe the thing that we should ask developers to do, there's food for thought, is because they're going to be out there doing an as-built anyway, to stake the center line of the trail easement or mark it somehow. And then whoever is going to build the trail knows where the center line is. And we know whatever. But that's a thing, a function that is related to a function that they're doing at that stage of the project. I think we might get some compliance with that. And then it can be marked on the as-built, right?
That's not a big ask.
No, center line trail easement. That's simple. It also makes me think this checklist idea. I'm not saying this is a Sam Jocelyn job, but what I'm saying is that when you go to get a building permit, there are checklists. You've got to go to the Board of Health. You've got to go to the Conservation Commission. You've got to go maybe to site plan review. You've got to do a whole lot of steps. And there needs to be the SAM equivalent for trails, whoever it is. And that entity has the checklist saying, okay, well, this trail, the easement's been established. It's been laid out. So if you want to build this trail, we know there's some wetlands crossings. We know this, we know that. these are the things you have to do, whoever that is. If it's,
That's Michelle Green. She's the land agent. Her
so
role
if,
is conservation agent and land agent. So she's the staff level support for the open space committee, the Mill Pond committee. So
But
she
so
will hold the checklist and she will make sure that Sam signs off, that, whoever else is involved signs off.
so but she's not the builder of the trails.
No, but she's the Sam equivalent.
So
Okay.
who's going to
Sure
build?
So it's then, well, we have to
Whoever,
identify is who's gonna build it.
whoever is the proponent
Open-
of the trail, if it's
Well, the-
EPTA, if it's
but-
Greenbelt,
But proponent, I don't know, is the planning board the proponent because we've
No,
got
if-
easement?
no, the proponent is whoever wants to build the trail.
But
But
You-
this is a kind of a
it was
circular.
clearly-
thing.
it
So
was
either it's,
clearly- Yeah, I came away hearing that the developer has to go get this form filled out, and he's going to end up, and we can't condition permits on.
No, absolutely not. No, it's just whoever wants to build the trail. If the like Newbury wanted to build the trail or was encouraged to.
I think it should be a town entity that builds the trail. Whether it's a
that's-
volunteer group that has
Yeah.
yet to be organized, or whether it's an offshoot of open space, or whether it's DPW, or whoever it is, because that's the only way the town's gonna have any enforceability or control or liaising with Michelle is if it's a town entity. It
Yeah.
can't be.
And if I may add, about 15 or 20 years ago, it occurred to me that there could be in town, there could be somebody called a trail warden
Yes, there could be.
with specific responsibilities to, periodically go across the trails. And if somebody's using motorized vehicles where they shouldn't be using and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But that's a whole nother thing.
Well, that is in the land agent's job description. It's just a matter of freeing up enough time. But part of her role is to walk the trails in town and, identify things that need to be done and coordinate DPW help and that kind of thing.
Okay, well, this is great. I didn't realize that was all included in her expanded job. So
Yeah.
it sounds like she needs a construction posse somehow.
Are you volunteering yet?
No, I'm not. But there are people who would. I know people
Yeah.
who, pretty good with a chainsaw,
Yeah.
It's just gotta be whether it's, the trail mavens or whoever it is, somebody's gotta spearhead that.
And I think just part of the impetus was this, is I think there's a lot of pressure for the town to complete and build and manage trails. But there's not the staff out there to do it. So they're looking for a way to kind of get as much information as they can on all the trails going forward.
But
And
there
I'm asking them
shouldn't
to
be,
go.
there shouldn't be staff.
So the
It
people
shouldn't
who
be-
are. yeah,
It's
the people who are-
volunteers.
People who are
And that's
putting the
where I go
pressure
back
on,
to-
they
Yeah.
should be in that group. They should
you know,
volunteer. Think of all the work that Steve Greason did and many, many, many other people. I don't know, we have a volunteer problem in this town. That's another conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if there are people out there who are like grumbling because by God, the town's got all these easements, why doesn't somebody build the trails on there so I can use them?
Exactly.
It's like, well, get out there, buddy.
Take your pickaxe and shovel and your boots.
Get a bunch of people out there. Yeah. But of
Yeah.
course, you do run into the whole thing that, I mean, there are conservation issues here too, and how you do the trail and.
Yeah.
But still,
Sure.
Yeah, trails are inherently muddy. I mean, I don't know, you're going to run into stuff from time to time. You can't solve every problem by, protect every weed on the side of a trail. You just go up to the mountains, you see the condition of some of these trails, but they all get dealt with by volunteers as well. So I just have to say, developers can only do so much, and that there's going to be big pushback if there's an expectation that they're going to go out and build the bridges and all of this stuff on trails that we may come and see. It's just not going to happen.
No, that's not the intent. So this may be a
Well, that's
flaw
how it
in the
came across,
presentation.
so
Yeah,
that's what I
no,
thought.
no,
So-
that's only if, in the magical time that a developer wants to build a trail for us, then we'd want them to follow this. But there's no expectation that developers will if you don't require them to. So-
I may be
the only one, sounds like it's looking for additional information, but I was somewhat, frustrated in a couple of instances since I've been on the board where developers come in and they talk about trails, and it takes them a while to put something on a plan. And, then like Ann is saying, where's the trail really located here? It's nothing's really delineated and it's a very informal thing. And they're just using it as a marketing tool, for their development. And I do think that requiring them to submit some more information, about the location of it and what they are offering to actually do would be helpful. And, we haven't really got that because we don't really have any standard, for submittal of any information of that kind that would enable us to see whether or not there's actually something of a real public benefit that's being offered here. Is the trail actually connect to anything? Is this, going to really do anything for the town? So I do think some additional information other than, I plan to offer a trail that might be accessible to the community, and that's like it. And drawn, kind of with the crayon, on one of the plans, is I think something more than that should be required. And these other questions are very good questions, about, down the line, how good the trail is actually going to be and material and, we'll have signage and all that stuff. But that's, I think, I agree with the other members. That's like well beyond something the planning board would get into. But I think as far as like if someone is offering to build a trail, requiring some minimal level of information, to enable us to evaluate whether this is an actual, possible trail that might benefit the town, I think, is actually beneficial. I looked through the checklist. There's a lot of stuff there, though. This seems like something that would be developed more like on a holistic basis. So, the planning board may have some input on some part of it and some role in some part of it, particularly the location of the plan and the easements that are referenced. But as far as what we can require, that's probably or obtain, that's probably about it. But I just don't think when people have been offering to construct trails, there's been enough definition as to what they're actually offering to do. But it probably wouldn't go to the extent of all of these things here. But maybe what the planning board collects could be fed into, this type of list.
So there you have it, Wendy.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate
Like
your
it or
input.
Like it or not, it's input.
I like it
and
all.
Input is good.
That's
Okay.
right, absolutely. I appreciate
There
the
you go.
time discussing.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Town planner report. Things we haven't covered, Sue.
Boy, that would be, let's see. Let's see. Let's see.
It's a schedule. Okay.
Here's the schedule. So I think we kind of did talk about that. I think after while the state is reviewing, I think that will be a time for us to doing our public outreach to get ready for the town meeting. So I think maybe at a next meeting, we kind of think about what that means, just what we do during that time. And then, of course, we'll need a public hearing in March for the town meeting in April.
If they have 90 days to review it and they get it in January, then we won't get it back till April. So we'll be having the public hearing with a document that we're not sure is the final one. Is that
We
true?
may. I mean, they say 90 days. They say, yeah, it might not be back.
Okay. We'll do our best.
January, February, March. Yeah. I mean, we could push it out until early April.
Can you maybe just ask Dodson, have they heard what the turnaround time has been for the municipalities that are supposed to enact by the end of the year?
I can ask.
Good question.
I'd be curious.
So January, we will have a housing production plan event. Corridor improvement study is moving forward. They're going to be giving draft concept plans for the 5 focus areas. All kinds of stuff happening with the resiliency project. If you're tuned into if you get the notifications from the town, you might know that they had the Zoom, not the Zoom, the drone event, and they had on a YouTube discussion. And they're going to continue to move on that. Ash Street is going to be submitting an A&R tentatively the later August meeting to show the division of that property.
Is that sold yet?
Um,
Oh, no.
It's closed.
yes, it has closed, right?
It did
No,
close.
that was Sawmill Brook.
No,
that
that's
closed.
Sawmill
Sawmill.
that closed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think Ash Street closed yet. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still in process.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they're still waiting for some funding, aren't they?
I'm sure they are.
No, I think it's a complex deal. So anyway,
Yeah, it is.
But they want to know how this is going to work out. We just talked about the trails, and then in the plan, I had a conversation with the water superintendent, and got some information from him, because at our last meeting at the forum, town projects forum, there were some people with concerns about the town water and the capacity. So I just wanted to get some facts out there. So I pulled together this information with discussions. It doesn't seem like this is a tipping point. This particular.
Yeah, no, it's
were to
good.
be built.
we should have this available if we have more forums about it.
That's very good information. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
So I just wanted to kind of have that out there in your talking points, so that you could feel comfortable with that information.
Do we know how much the Newbury Port sells the water back to us for?
I do. I don't have it off the tip of my tongue. I do know, but there's no guarantee right now that it would stay at that rate. What I do know is it's a retail rate. It's not a wholesale rate. It's the rate that a normal taxpayer from Newburyport would pay, which I think I know we're hoping to get changed. So I think that's going to be a conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we
Oh,
do
yeah.
put together some sort of information sheet on this, you could say that in 2022 or whatever the latest number is, it costs so much per gallon.
Right. Yep. I also, I didn't put it here, but in my own little fact sheet on water, I kind of added some information about what the town does, because, adding 40 households is nothing compared to what a couple households do in the summer. If we could just change the habits of some large landowners, you could make that up pretty easily, so that, you can't fill your pool with potable town with water. You can't, different bans that they have. So I had that kind of information available too.
Yeah,
What do we do to conserve water?
Water department could certainly consider, I don't know if, because I'm not on the town water system, not allowing pool filling.
Right, they don't. It is not allowed.
Already in there. Yeah.
Yeah, which doesn't mean maybe it doesn't happen, but it isn't allowed. Yeah. So, and then the last thing, I'm just trying to keep all our zoning initiatives
Oh boy.
in front of us, just so we know. And some of these came from when I asked Sam what was on his wish list going forward. I just kind of put them on there. Some of them are as little as, floodplain bylaw map. They just need to change panel numbers, but that if we just have a running tally, we could at least tick them off as we do the convert to a table formats in here.
Mhm.
And all of
Great
Yep.
stuff there. Less
Yeah.
things are going to get easier after MBTA is over.
Yeah, I know. You would think
Yes.
do 4 or 5 of them at a time.
We'll come back to this after our next meeting when we realize we have free time.
That's right.
Good. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
We have no minutes. Do we have any correspondence we need to talk about?
I think there was just one decision from, who was it from?
Groveland
Groveland.
about building something in a watershed
Right.
protection. It
Right,
sounded
and the
really
aquifer
scary.
protection, they approved I think
Can't hear you.
oh, I'm sorry. The town of
Yep.
Groveland just sent us a decision. They allowed something to be built in an aquifer protection overlay district. Oh, it was to install diesel generators to support a site in the overlay district.
It
Hmm.
was pretty wild. It had all kinds of catchment requirements and stuff. I thought,
Good
oh,
Lord.
Yeah,
Wow.
about to spill.
Wow. Okay.
didn't sound like a prescription for a great outcome to me,
Yeah.
but whatever.
The annual report, I know you sent it around. Did anybody have comments or questions?
I got a notice from Ann that I started in October instead of September. She was right.
It was kind of unforgettable. We'll just
I guess
Ray
September was in
was
my
the-
mind because that's when I left my old job.
There you go. Yes.
I think Ray was the CPC rep last fiscal
Thanks.
year.
I had those listed because I wasn't quite sure. Was Ray CPC in 20?
I think so.
Yep.
Okay, Ray.
Yeah.
I could look at my flurry of emails and get the dates down that way. Wendy
don't
would
torture
know.
you.
Wendy,
We don't want to cause a
here.
problem.
Flurry,
for you.
really?
Don't
Huh?
torture
Really?
yourself.
And Deb
Yeah.
was the vice chair. Yes,
Yes.
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 that's that one right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. No, I didn't have anything.
All right. So the rest of it was good. You're submitting that soon, or what's the deadline?
January 31st.
Oh,
Yeah, we
okay.
can talk about it again.
All
Yeah.
right. No problem. All right. And I had one item that did not make it on the agenda. I had asked Sue to send around the letter I sent to Nathan Dennis, and then you also saw his response. Sue and I met with Angus to make him aware of Nathan's response. And, I reaffirmed what was in my letter, and that I felt the board would not want to do anything different regarding Nathan's comments about his parcel. And my intent is to do another simple, a shorter a note back to him, just thanking him for his continued interest, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, he wishing him well. He's free to do whatever he wishes to try to do on his own land. But I didn't know if anybody wanted to talk about it in any other in depth or whatnot here.
I must have missed this. When did you send this?
Sue
Yes.
sent it a couple of days ago.
Ann, did you get it?
I did.
I got it.
All right.
Yeah, it was basically from, his commentary at the public hearing about, why didn't we want to consider his land for the MBTA zoning, et cetera, et cetera.
And he did ask specifically if the board would mind if he hired Dodson and Flinker to kind of give him a sketch of his land and its carrying capacity. What did he have? I think he had another specific question too, but I don't think that they would think that that was probably
No, they will not. They will not be
That
to
would-
do.
doing that.
Are you, Brian, are you able to let us know anything about, did Angus have any specific comments, or you just want to make sure that he knew this was?
It was really
occur.
just to make him aware, these things, you never know where they will, could
Yeah.
go.
Mhm.
And somebody could certainly stand up at town meeting and whatnot. So, it's fair. He's interested in doing something with his land, as he has been for some time.
Yeah.
But we discussed it briefly, and that was fine. He didn't have any other recommendations.
Okay, great.
And that's all I have. Anyone else? Anything else? I know it's later for. Sorry, just one of those
Oh,
things.
wow.
Look at this. There we go. That's one of the puppies.
Oh my
Huh, Ray?
gosh.
Is that Ray's puppy?
No, it is, it might be. There's a
Oh
my
1%
God.
chance that that'll be the puppy. But
Ah.
they're all cute.
They're
That's-
always cute. Yes.
That's how they get you. Those
stuff.
puppies.
Probably not gonna be that cute when I have to get up every morning at 2 in the
Right.
morning to take the puppy out, but
That's a short.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Sure.
matter. You don't have to go to school, so you might as well.
that's right.
There you go. All right. Well, I think that's it. I wish everybody a happy Christmas and good New Year. Good
Listen,
time
you
with your
getting all
family.
European with the happy Christmas there.
Well,
Good luck
to
I,
keep
I,
it British.
I give you a Merry Christmas. That's
You're
okay.
you're so cosmopolitan, Brian.
It's all And if you're not happy, well, I don't know what I can do about that.
Well, happy Christmas and Merry New Year to you too, sir.
Take some medication or something, I guess. Whatever.
Get a puppy.
All right.
Get a puppy.
Motion to adjourn.
Next meeting, January 2nd?
Second,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you.
See you
Motion
next
to
year.
adjourn.
That's
Yes.
right. Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Wonderful to see everybody. Thank you for the good evening.